and welcome to the latest edition of the Football Culture Podcast. In our last episode, we covered a book, Pasión, the Story of Spanish Football, with Miguel Lorenzo Pereira. And for this episode, we're going to look at a magazine. And I have here with me today James Gamlin from Escapisimo magazine. So James, introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me on. Just can't wait to talk all about football, about Betis. It's Spanish football, one of our favourite topics. So I have been running the magazine now for 5 years. So it started off as a Father's Day gift that I made, a sort of concept version, if you like, for my dad. We had so many photos and topics we were both interested in. So he's just as huge a football fan as I am, so you can definitely see where I get it from. But so making that for him, I had a few printed and I really enjoyed the process. And then, handed them out to a few friends and family, and to him as well. A lot of people just said, why don't you try and take this forward? And then fast forward to now, and here we are. So it's just been a process that I've really, really enjoyed doing. And I think holding a physical book or magazine, or if it's a photo or vinyl record, there's something about the analog nature of things that I think we've maybe lost a little bit in sort of recent decades. But I also feel equally that's making a bit of a comeback. It's a sort of a nostalgic feel to these things, isn't there? So producing something physical, I think, that people can keep, and I always like the idea of the magazine being gifted to people like it was originally to my dad. So it's been a wonderful process to sort of see it evolve, and I've learned so much over time with every issue that's been released. And you've been a fan from the very start, so I have to say a huge thank you for your support over the years. It's really exciting. Just released a new issue earlier this week.
Okay, great. And I know what you're saying about having a physical copy. So you sent me a PDF of the latest issue, but I'm still going to buy a copy because I want a paper one that I can sit with a coffee.
I will send you a copy. I will send you a copy.
Oh, okay, great. I still buy books. I still buy magazines. I much prefer that to reading online. I think that's not just an age thing as well. I'm 46, but a lot of younger people as well still want that, even if they're part of the digital generation. So it's great that you're keeping these things going. So you're from Bristol originally. Who's your team in Bristol? Is it City or Rovers?
Yes, I am a Bristol City fan. So
correct answer.
I have a lot of friends. That are Rovers fans, but City is definitely my team. So I feel you're a little bit older than me. You've suffered it even more, but I can definitely appreciate the sort of highs and lows of football. I think all Bristol City fans can. We've seen the good and the bad of football, but more the good. We're proud, aren't we? So,
well, this is it. I mean, it's like I listen to other podcasts, and there's like Tottenham fans go, "It's so difficult being a Tottenham fan." Well, try being a Bristol City fan, but then a Rochdale fan will say, "Try being a Rochdale fan." It's all relative, isn't it? But yeah, it's character building, as they say. But no, I know Rovers fans as well. Some listeners may know, some listeners may not. So the rivalry in Bristol is very, very strong. But because both clubs aren't the most successful, people don't necessarily realise that. And I was saying the other day, I do have friends that are Rovers fans, but not that many. And this isn't by design. It's just circumstance. It's like I'm from the south of the city, and I know a lot of people from Bristol City. So I just haven't come into contact with as many Rovers fans as City by just by luck. I'm sure if I grew up in Kingswood, I'd know a lot more Rovers fans. But luckily for me, it's all relative. But luckily for me, City been slightly better than Rovers. But that's not saying something. Two bold men fighting over a comb, perhaps. Okay, great. So you've done several issues of the magazine already, and your last special edition was on Napoli, which is obviously like special city, special club, Maradona, etc. Now, your latest issue is on Spain and Spanish football, but focusing on a club in particular, which is Real Betis. Now, why did you choose Seville for the magazine, and why Betis in particular? Because you've got like Athletic Bilbao, a very unique club. Real Vallecano, have something different about them. Why did you choose Betis over any other Spanish club?
Yeah, it's a great question, to be honest. I think it's a club that maybe isn't super well known outside of Spain. Definitely not the best known Spanish club in the UK. And I think in the UK we love Spanish football, don't we? I think I remember a time when I was growing up where El Clasico was a match that everybody would watch. And I remember a show I used to love watching called Revista de la Liga, which I feel like there's a generation of listeners a bit younger than me who will think, what's he on about? But anyone my age remembers that show. And yeah, always really enjoyed Spanish football. And I just think that there's a few things that really caught my eye about Betis. So my dad had a few old books, and I remember he's got one book about football badges and the sort of history of the badges, and that was something, the history of the badge with the 13 stripes. And I think that was the first time I sort of read about this amazing passion that Betis fans have, and that was something that really probably first brought my attention onto the club itself. And I sort of love so many different elements of football, but definitely loyal supporters. I think maybe being a Bristol City fan, that I definitely appreciate the loyalty of supporters through thick and thin, and that was something that caught my eye. So this must be going back about 10 years or so ago. And then I went to but 10 friends went to Barcelona to watch Messi play, and the game was Barca against Betis. So that was when I was, start of that season was following Barca really closely, and then was following Betis really closely as well, just because I wanted to sort of, enjoy the match to the full. And I remember that was 2019. That was so Betis having a great run in Europe, had played Milan and beat Milan at the San Siro. And I remember saying to everyone, I think this is going to be quite a close game, and Betis actually won the game 4-3 in Barcelona, which was like an incredible game, one of the best games I think I've ever been to. But that was when I really started to appreciate them even more, and sort of continued to kind of follow Betis from then on, really. And then fast forward a few years, and I'd always sort of wanted to go to Seville. I had so many people that I'd spoken to, and I said lovely things about it. In lockdown, I don't really know why I did this to myself, but I watched loads and loads of travel videos of different places. Thought I can't go there at the minute, but one day. And I think just find out more about the city, and then seeing Betis win the cup a few years ago, that was an amazing moment. And I think the Spanish Cup's been great recently. I think it's 6 out of 7 years, or 5 out of 6 years has been different winners. So nice to see that's been, with Bilbao winning it, Betis, Valencia, obviously the big teams as well. But like that's been great to see as well, and just seeing the celebration. And there's a great documentary that Copper 90 did, and that was I think that's one of the best like football documentaries I think I've ever watched, where it really goes into detail about the fans, the history, and really what that result sort of would mean and then went on to mean to the fans afterwards. So all of those sort of things combined, me and my friend were looking to have a trip, and we always love, if you can combine a nice weekend away in Europe with a match that you've got, like, for a football fan, it's the dream trip, isn't it? So we were talking about Seville, and I was saying, look, if we're gonna go, we've got to watch Betis. Not that I've got anything against Seville. Really, I think Seville's a really interesting club as well, and their success in Europe's been incredible in the last decade or so. But I was saying, look, I'll explain everything. We just have to watch Betis play. So after this trip, my friend Tom, he's a Betico for life as well now. He's converted, but so I think just sort of having the club and the fans on my radar, and being a club that I think there's a real backstory to, and I think that there was a really interesting story to be sort of told there that is maybe slightly different to anything I've really covered in the magazine previously. So it was sort of all of those factors combined, and made the trip in May of last year. So it's been a long time in the making. So to any sort of fans of the magazine out there, I want to thank everyone for their patience, because it's been a while since the last issue. But really hope it's been worth the wait, because I think as sort of I've learnt more and more things over the years from doing the previous issues, this is what I'd say is hopefully the best work to date.
Okay, sounds good. It's interesting you first saw Betis at Barcelona, because I think that would have been the Quique Setien era.
Yes.
Yeah, and I saw the derby, Betis against Seville in May of 2018. Quique Setien was the coach then. Having no idea at the time I'd end up living in Seville, which is where I'm speaking to you from now. I've got a Betis season ticket. I had no idea that would happen, but it's interesting because like Barcelona is almost like a home game for Betis in some regards, because there's so many Andalusians and Betis fans up in Catalonia. And also as well in Bristol, I remember I bought a Betis shirt as a souvenir, and I was jogging up the Bath Road one day and someone shouted "Mucha Betty" out of a car window. And I'm like, okay, the Betis fans get around. I've also cycled Bristol to Bath wearing a Betis shirt and having someone shout Viva El Betty at me as I've cycled past. So the Betis fans get around. Okay, so
I'm sorry, just to add to that, it's really interesting, because there are certain clubs that do have that like sort of huge diaspora of fans. Like I think Napoli, maybe because of sort of covering it in the last magazine, I maybe always looking out for Napoli shirts and things. But you see Napoli fans are everywhere, aren't they? And I think Betis is another one of those clubs that maybe you wouldn't expect to see so much. But on the day Betis played that cup final against Valencia, I actually saw a few people around Bristol in Betis shirts that day, and I saw quite a lot. So I've been living in London in the last few years. I saw quite a lot on the day of the Conference League final, and Betis actually has a fan club in London. There's a pub in either in Camden or Kentish Town. Need to make the visit there, but they've got like a whole Betis fan club, and you think, wow, it's amazing to think like this. There's that community that exists outside of Spain, and of course, all over Spain, and especially like you said in Catalonia. Amazing when you sort of delve into it, learning about how it's one of those clubs that is all over Spain, which is something really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny what you say about Napoli. So where I'm speaking to you from now, on one of the streets very near to here, there's like a Napoli shrine hanging from a balcony. There's a Napoli flag, scarves. There's a little Maradona shrine there. So there's a Napoli fan right around the corner from here, displaying their colours on the balcony. So there are certain clubs where there is a diaspora in a lot of places for various different reasons. Okay, so you came to see your first Betis home game then. What match was it that you attended?
So it was Betis against Real Sociedad. So
okay.
Right, I think you might have gone to the match as well.
I did, yeah. I've got a season ticket. Bizarrely, my brother went as well. My dad and my brother were visiting that weekend. So my brother came. So for the listeners, Betis it was the last home game of the season, and both Betis and Sociedad were both going for the Europa League place, and then the loser probably would go into the conference rather than the Europa League. So it was almost like a bit of a playoff.
The playoff, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what were your memories of the match?
Yeah, I remember I remember it being a really good contest, to be honest, especially that first half. I can't remember who. I did write it in the magazine. I should remember this. I can't remember who scored a free kick for Sociedad after about 5 or 6 minutes, but it's one of the best free kicks I've ever seen. Incredible. So that, but I think I was going through. I bought all of these newspapers and tried to get as much as I could at the time from like the city to bring back to make the magazine with. But I think Betis had about like 13 attempts to 2 in the first half and were 2-0 down. So just like it was a bit of an onslaught on the goal, and I was right up in the third tier. I think the opposite end to where you sit, actually,
in the goal saw.
So I mean, if anyone's ever been to that stadium, that it's so steep, isn't it? And the perspective, it was almost like a bird's eye view of the goal beneath it. So something I've never really experienced at another ground before. So that was an amazing perspective to watch the match from. And yeah, it just felt like they did everything but score in that first half. But I remember the day we flew out, I think we flew out on a Thursday. The match was on a Sunday, came back on the Monday. But Isco, during the time we flew out there, had broken his leg, so it was like the most unfortunate timing for the team going into like a big game without the star man. And also, I've got a paper where he's earned his call up to Spain, or they were anticipating he was going to be called back up for Spain for the Euros, and then such a shame for him. But fast forward a year, he's back, which is great. But yeah, so and I remember the second half there was a penalty which tried the Panenka and didn't really come off. So
Abde,
and then a disallowed goal, which was maybe a little bit harsh for Iose. So the game could have been different on the day, but I do remember one thing that just really took my breath away was the anthem, the hymn before the game. That was absolutely breathtaking, and I suppose that must be amazing before like every game. But that was the first time I'd ever heard it, and yeah, that was, I think that was one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced at a football match, to be honest. That was absolutely amazing. And then I remember, as sort of coming into the last couple of minutes of the game, supporters all around me stood up, sung the anthem again, and you think there aren't many sides that can lose a really big game 2-0 at home and the fans are cheering them off like that. It's a really unique club and a really special fan base as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about the anthem. I mean, it's always excellent whatever match, but in the derby against Seville, it's extra special. Like, it's louder. It's just a little bit, it goes up by 1 on the volume. I remember Fiorentina in the semi-final of the conference was similar. It's a really big game. But it's also funny that, so they were, the reason why the fans were singing that at the end, singing the anthem, it was like a defiance. All right, we've lost, but we're showing support here. It's kind of the Betis way of "we'll support you evermore" with that, and it comes out towards the end of a match if the team's losing a big game or if they're winning a big game. Either way, it's like it's displayed there. But yeah, I remember that being that free kick was fantastic, but it was one of those. It's not our day today. As soon as that went in, you just knew.
It's the sort of one where it just happens in football sometimes, doesn't it? Where it just doesn't quite fall for you, does it? But yeah, no, it is exactly what you said. I think that loyalty of the supporters is almost like the result is sort of secondary to just being who they are, isn't it? And being Betis and supporting their club. And I think that's it's just a wonderful thing. And it's not every club is like that, is it? So there are a lot of clubs like that, but not every club is like that. So it's an amazing fan base, and amazing to have experienced it in real life is if anyone's planning a weekend getaway to watch a match, I couldn't recommend going to see Betis more, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Well, so it was your first visit to Seville. What was your impressions of the city when you arrived? What did you think of it?
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I thought that we stayed right next to the cathedral. So, I mean, that couldn't have been a better location, to be honest. But yeah, I thought it was just such a wonderful city, and definitely really captured that sort of image of Spain that you might sort of, the sort of stereotypical idea of Spain that you have with the orange trees and, you know, everything's sort of really outdoors, like all the cafes and lovely like seating areas, and the architecture is beautiful. There's so many sort of little bars and cafes hidden away. That stretch, I think the road is called Betis along the river. That was lovely with the
Cali Betis, yeah.
The bars and the cafes along there. And I just felt like a very sort of relaxed pace of life. No one was in a hurry, no one was in a rush. We had amazing weather when we went, and it's somewhere I wouldn't hesitate to go back. I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Seville's a great city to visit. It's currently, at the time of recording, it's July. Not a good time to visit in July, August, as it is very, very hot. But I went to my first game here before I lived here in May of 2018, and May is a really good time to come, which I think is when you came. So April, May, September, October is probably the best time I would say to come, because it's still nice and warm. It's not too hot, and the winters can get surprisingly cold. So I think people don't realize how cold it does get in January and December, but it doesn't last for very long. Okay, so from looking at the magazine, you met quite a few people along the way. What were your memories of some of the people? Because reading the magazine, it seems like every single person that you bumped into or met was a Betis fan. Did you come across any Sevilla fans, or?
We did come across a couple, but it was we were just like, this must just be by chance, because it was like everybody we spoke to, especially in like the first couple of days, we just couldn't believe like they're all Betis fans, and it's just I think the main thing that I would say is when you sort of told them that you'd come here and you're coming to watch a game, that the pride that they feel, the fact that you've chosen to come and watch their team, you could really get a sense of that. And I think it's just lovely to talk when you're a football fan, just talking about different clubs and where you're from and talking to people about their team and their city is one of my favorite things. But it was it was amazing. We were just like, God, that everybody supports Betis here. It seems. I mean, I know it's probably around. You'll have a much better idea, and it's probably around 50-50 or something, isn't it? But it definitely felt that you could really feel that sort of like big club presence that they had. And really interestingly, we only met one person who was a Madrid or a Barcelona fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge factor. So to address, for balance, I know I'm a Betis fan, but for balance, there are a lot of Sevilla fans within the city. Now, I mean, it's debated amongst the fan base. I would certainly say there's an element where Betis are seen as the team of Andalusia. So, and again, I can only go on past experience. So if there's any Sevilla fans listening, please don't send me abuse for this. I'm only going on what I come across. But for example, if I go down to Cadiz, which is a province of Andalusia, I see Betis shirts. Sevilla ones, not so much. If I do, they're probably from Sevilla. This is in other provinces like Huelva, etc. The membership figures. So every year, the Diario de Sevilla publishes the final membership figures for both clubs. So you can actually see how many members each club has by the end of the membership period. And I think last season, roughly, and if I'm wrong on this, then by all means, correct me, but not in an abusive way. I think Betis had about 70,000 and Sevilla about 50,000, which if you add that together, that's a lot of football fans in a city of more or less 600,000 people, 120,000 of them are members of the football club. Obviously, some of those people could be from outside. I'd certainly say I say Betis is a team of Andalusia within Seville province, not just the city. There's a lot of Seville fans as well. And Betis being seen as the team of Andalusia comes down to Betis's darkest period in the 50s because they were playing a lot of small clubs in Andalusia. So a lot of people became fans because this big club came to their town. It could easily have happened to Sevilla if they'd have made as much of a mess of things as Betis managed to do back then, but they didn't. They were actually quite strong in the 1950s, Sevilla. But yeah, and also as well, another thing is, like you say about Real Madrid and Barcelona, you're 100% correct. It's like it's Seville or Betis. You will come across the odd Barcelona Real Madrid shirt, but they're normally not from Seville. I'm a teacher, so the younger generation, the teenagers, they like one or the other Real Madrid, Barcelona, but they're more into players. You'll see as many Inter Miami shirts as you will Real Madrid or Barcelona. So it depends what player they like, and most people here have a preference. So they could be a Betis fan and prefer Madrid or Barcelona, depending, on the person, but they're not their first team. And I met, when the Copa del Rey final was here between Real Madrid and Barcelona, I met a lot of people in Real Madrid or Barcelona shirts out watching the game, and they were actually their second team. They were a Betis or Sevilla fan, and they just happened to like Madrid or Barcelona secondary. So it is very much like just focused on the two clubs within the city, which you don't necessarily get in other Spanish cities, even with big clubs. Like Valencia, for example. But yeah, it sounded like you had a great trip and some of the people that you met. So what were your best memories of the trip? Doesn't just have to be going to Betis, but the city, the whole experience of your trip.
Yeah, we managed to cram quite a lot into a couple of days, but I loved the Las Setas, is that what it's called? The canopy. That was fantastic because we went up there in the sort of early evening, watched the sunset. I mean, that was absolutely magical. Just such a great view. It was almost 360, isn't it, across the whole city? So definitely, if you're a visitor, I would say to do that. But yeah, loved the cafes, the bars. I think definitely in sort of the Mediterranean countries, the cafe culture is something that's just a huge part of life, isn't it? So it's lovely to just sort of have a relaxing stroll, stop for a coffee, go for a drink. Just love the sort of pace of life. I think you could really appreciate, and you could think, God, I could do this forever, don't you, when you visit? And then the match day itself, I always love this about Spanish football, where a lot of the kickoff times are slightly later in the evening, so you got the whole day building up to it, and it just felt like I could just see green and white shirts in every direction when I was sort of walking around the city that day, and then went along that lovely wide avenue down to the stadium, walked all the way there. And I always love that whenever you go to a match where you just sort of find yourself amongst more and more supporters. They sort of emerge from every direction, don't they? And saw so many fans heading down on their scooter, which I just thought was just so cool, so European, isn't it? And that was, such a lovely evening. Just like sun sort of slightly lower as we approach kickoff, and then just about setting by the end of the match. You think that's the absolute dream, isn't it, when you're watching a game in Europe? So yeah, and I think back whenever I go to like a new stadium, think, God, how many hours have I spent watching football on TV in this ground, or highlights on YouTube, or seen photos of it down the years? And it's like when you actually go there in real life, it's really, really special, isn't it? So it was lovely that the match sort of came at the very end of the trip. So it's like you had the whole weekend building up to it, and the excitement. And it was one of my favourite trips I've ever been on.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned the scooters, because like sometimes I often usually go for a drink, depending on the kickoff time if I got work the next day, but usually go for a drink after the game. And there's been occasions when I've left like straight away. And if you do leave straight away, it's called the Palmera, the avenue. And if you go out there, there's like just a scooter convoy. And if Betis have won, all the horns are going. It's a scooter convoy with scarves trailing in their wake along. I mean, the area by the stadium, it's a bit of a trek, but once you get down there, there's a lot of nice bars, and it's in a very wealthy area, the Benito Villamarín, and also a student area a bit further back. So you've got like a student vibe with lots and lots of bars by the university, and then you've got there's some bars in some sort of very wealthy areas and very nice houses. So you're sort of like almost sat in a park having a beer, which is nice, for what we call the previa. So to meet for a beer before the game is called the previa. So you definitely recommend anyone who's listening then to attend a game at Betis.
Oh, absolutely. I think definitely a great time for Betis right now. Is it 5 years in a row in Europe? And so some brilliant players on show. I think this might just be a me thing. I love the colours as well, green and white. Not that many teams playing green and white today, and it's it's a lovely kit, and to be amongst the supporters. I think that all of these things combined just make for such a great experience. And I know they'll be playing in the Cartuja next. Well, you think for quite a while, don't you? Maybe.
Wow.
We'll see. But definitely for like the next few years, we'll be playing there. But that's a great stadium to go to as well. But I think, to be honest, wherever you see Betis play, it's going to be a great experience. So couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, the Cartuja, because it's a bit of a trip into the unknown. To go there, there's been you probably gauge this from your trip, but in Seville, football is a really big deal. Like you can hear people talking about it all the time, even old ladies discussing it, over breakfast. And there's been all sorts of comments. And Sevillanos are very passionate, but they're very funny. So sometimes you don't know if someone's getting a bit carried away or whether they're like. Whether they're joking, but I've heard some comments like, "I think we're going to get relegated at the Cartuja because we're not going to be used to it," and all these sort of things. And then people are like, "The atmosphere is going to be terrible. It's too big. It's too far away from the pitch, even though they've got rid of the running track. There's no bars around there. It's going to be, and all this." But I think they'll make it into a home while Betis plays, and I think it is a UEFA Category 5 stadium. So, if you've missed going to the Benito Villamarín as it was now, because the demolition is starting on Monday, and it's going to be it's going to be rebuilt. But worth going to the new Benito Villamarín once it's built. But if you want to, tick off the third, why not? Come watch Betis at Cartuja, watch a match there, watch a match at the Sanchez Pizjuán Sevilla. And then Benito Villamarín when it's finished. So you've got like three years. If anyone who's listening wants to tick off all 3 stadiums in Seville, they can do that. But yeah, it's supposed to be for 2 years, but this is Seville, and everything's usually a little bit slower. There's a metro line here, which was announced in 1992. There was supposed to be 6 lines. There's only 1 in existence. They've just started work on the second line, which was announced in 1992, and obviously we're in 2025. So you get the idea as to why no one is confident that the stadium is going to be finished within 2 years. But we will see. Okay, so James, you obviously love a bit of Spanish football and football travel in general. So what would you say your other highlights of football in Spain are as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of places that I would love to go that I've never been before. Going to watch Barcelona, kind of similar situation where I saw them at the Camp Nou as it was, and then maybe would love to go back once they finish that new stadium off, which is going to be epic, isn't it? But yeah, I felt very lucky to see Messi play. That was unbelievable, and yeah, match day in Barcelona was a great experience as well. That was the first time I'd actually watched football outside of England, so it another case of God, how many hours of football have I watched in this stadium? And then you finally go there, and it was the same for all my friends that came, and we absolutely loved it. So yeah, and Barcelona's just a wonderful city as well. So I feel that's a great sort of weekend trip if you're a football fan. I'd quite like to watch Atletico Madrid play. I just feel that there's a lot of history there with the club, and I would love to have gone to the Calderon before that. Have you been? Yeah. How was that?
It was good. So it's very close to the city centre, and on the Sunday they were playing on the Sunday Atletico against Deportivo La Coruña, who have sunk a little bit since then.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it's called. Is it the Rastro? Any listeners, tell me in the comments. Is it the Rastro? Something like that. It's like a market they have on a Sunday in the La Latina district of Madrid, which is like city centre. And a lot of the Atletico fans will go and drink in La Latina and then walk down. And it's about a 10, 15-minute walk down from La Latina to the Calderon. And so it's in a really good location. If you're staying in the centre of Madrid, you can get to there quickly. The stadium was just very like the Benito Villamarín, but 2 tiers rather than 3, but with a bigger main stand. And it was noisy, and the atmosphere in there was good. In the same trip, I went to Real Madrid and Atletico in the same week, and sorry if any. Yeah, well, and Rayo Vallecano wedged in there as well, so I got all 3. Yeah, but you know, I don't want to offend any Real Madrid fans, but the atmosphere was much better at Atletico than at Real Madrid. Although I will add a caveat, and this is quite possibly not the fault of Real Madrid fans, but quite possibly the club. I don't know, or just the way the world of football is now. Is there was a lot of tourists in the stadium at Real Madrid. So I think that detracted from the atmosphere a bit. And, you know, I'm loath to criticize football tourism because I do it, you know, but it can detract from the atmosphere a little bit, you know, if they're not sort of local passionate fans in the stadium. And there was a lot. I mean, I tried to speak to some Real Madrid fans, like thinking they were from Madrid, you know, because they were at home, and they were like, oh no, we're from Mexico. And, you know, it was just like.
I mean, they have just that global fan base almost like no other, don't they? So yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting thing, but I guess sort of similar in a way to Betis, where you think maybe not the first club that people think to go and watch, but it really does feel like you get that super like authentic experience. And obviously I was the same. I'm very much a football tourist, and I love traveling around and everything, but yeah, it is an amazing experience when you feel almost as if you're the only tourist there, don't you? Sometimes, and everyone else is like a super passionate fan. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go to Valencia as well. I think you might have been there to Valencia.
Been to Mestalla, yeah. Get there soon, because it's not going to be there much longer.
Exactly, and then yeah, to Bilbao and San Sebastian. I think that's like a whole different sort of feel of Spanish football in the north. So. Yeah, and you know, so many great clubs in Spain with such unique sort of history to them, and so much variety in Spain. I think between the different clubs, such a different identity, you know, and different regions and different sort of influences on the kits and things. So much to unpack. So it definitely won't be my last visit to Spain to watch football, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's Spain as a country where the regions are all very different. Andalusia is very, very different from the north. You know, I mean, when I've moved here, you know, I've got talked to people and they say, yeah, we're from Seville, so, you know, we're in the bar of an evening. Everyone in the north, they're at home watching TV, but we're in the bar, you know, at this kind of thing. But Mestalla, you should definitely do. Brilliant stadium, loved it there. It's a shame that it's going to go, but yeah. It's tired. It's like San Siro, you know. It's past its sell by date, but it's still great. And apologies to Sidlow if he's listening. I don't know if he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. Who knows? But Real Oviedo is his team, and their rivals are Sporting de Gijón. I've been to Sporting Gijón, and that was a brilliant atmosphere. That was
Yeah,
really
no,
noisy.
I've heard a few things. I forget the name of their ground now.
El Molinón.
That's the one. Yeah. But I've heard a lot of things of people saying like unbelievable atmosphere, and like when they lost 6-0 to Barca or 6-0 to Madrid, the whole stadium was singing, and yeah, amazing fan base there, isn't it? So yeah, and another one like we sort of mentioned, Deportivo, having a bit of a tougher moment right now, but that's an amazing stadium right on the beach, isn't it? And just that would be another great trip, which again couldn't filter into sort of the south of Spain, could it? But sort of unique in its own way. So yeah, I would love to go there, and to Celta Vigo as well. I think that sort of really love the passion of the fans, and love the kit and the stadium. It's if I could do a sort of a month or 2 months just traveling around all of Spain, I would definitely do that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's recommended. I've not been to Celta. I went to Deportivo La Coruña, and you're right, stadiums on the beach, but it is Galicia, and Galicia is like UK weather, and it rains a lot. And there's a famous story about Bebeto. So Bebeto has got a choice between Deportivo La Coruña or Dortmund, and he goes to Dortmund. It's Germany, it's grey, it's raining. He goes to La Coruña, and it's a beautiful sunny day. And he's like, and the people at the club say to him, look, this is like Brazil. Look, there's the beach, there's the stadium, here's the sunshine. You should sign for us. So Bebeto decides to sign for Deportivo La Coruña because, beautiful weather, etc. And he then soon discovers that it rains almost every day in Galicia. This was a rare sunny day. And he's gone to one of the rainiest parts of Europe. But having said that, La Coruña is a great city, and the ground being right next to the beach is really, really good. I think when we went, we had a walk along the promenade, a couple of beers and something to eat, and then we went into the stadium, and it was a great experience. Okay, so in terms of the magazine, then, what's your future plans for the magazine? Have you thought ahead as to what you might do for future issues, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so much I'd love to do, and if I could do it more often, I definitely would as well. Because I suppose that the first 4 that I did all had a sort of theme. So the first covered the underdog, which I think we all have underdog stories in football, don't we? And then looked at a theme called mixed fortune, so the sort of like highs and lows that different sides have had over time. So teams like Man City couldn't have been sort of more of a contrast between like the recent decades and the sort of time spent in the second and third division in the past. So I think really interesting looking at that, and then looked at ending the wait for a trophy. So sort of how Betis just had that, or you think like Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup is like how incredible that celebration is when you waited so long to celebrate something, or when it's a side that hasn't won the league for a long time, or hasn't won the cup or success in Europe. It's like it's always so special when a team breaks that sort of cycle, isn't it? And then one of my favorite themes that I would quite like to sort of cover this off again, something that I call touching distance. I think sometimes when a team reaches all the way to the final but actually falls just short in the World Cup or in Europe or cup competition, I think sometimes you remember that side as fondly as a side that won the league or won the cup. And I think that's such an interesting thing where you almost the love for that side is stronger, or it almost strengthens the fans and their relationship with the club, because it almost feels very human, doesn't it, for the players on the pitch to miss out, and I feel like the fans almost resonate with that even more strongly. So that's the thing that I'd love to go back to and cover some more stories there. But the last 2 have been this more like travel theme, which I've really enjoyed. So going to Naples, looking at that relationship with Maradona and the history there, and that being a one club city in a city of literal millions of people, I think is quite unique. And I think that was a fascinating one. And love to come in to Seville with Betis, and again the sort of the amazing passion for football in the city, and the sort of story of the supporters and all the history there. A couple of places that I'd really like to go. I'd love to go to Marseille. I think again, it's that amazing sort of almost us against them mentality that they have, where it's a touch different to the rest of France, and huge city with just this one team that they're so passionate about, and looking to win a title again, and that sort of elusive next trophy for them, I think is something really interesting. So that's one I definitely want to go and explore. And I think just being by the sea and everything, the lovely weather, there's a lot of really interesting history there. Fiorentina and Roma, two clubs that I've got a real soft spot for. So I think I can sort of already imagine the color palette of those magazines, lovely purples and things. And yeah, I've always wanted to go to Florence. And again, I think with them, it's their real sort of yearning for a trophy and for success. 2 finals of the Conference League, and actually just losing that to Betis they would have been in the final for a third year, wouldn't it? So that's the side that I think so many people who are just neutral fans, like Fiorentina, don't know, very likable club, and that iconic purple kit, similar to the green and white. There's not a lot of teams that play in purple either. So those are a couple of those sort of more travel editions that I like to do. But I think the ultimate one, if I ever could, I know you went to see them play, didn't you? It is just a whole issue on Boca Juniors. I think that's like the ultimate football trip, I think.
I would agree. It hasn't been bettered yet, or the trip to Argentina in general. I loved San Lorenzo as well. That was really good, but they were all good. Lanús was great. People have probably never heard of Lanús, although Lanús is where Maradona was born. And Independiente was great. They're a big club. It's all of it. Argentina in general is fantastic. I've never been to Brazil. I'm sure Brazil's great as well, but that's when I have the time, I guess. Okay, so when's the latest edition of the magazine out, and where can people pick up a copy?
Yes, so it's available now. I suppose we'll drop some links into the comments or to the post copy and everything.
Yeah, sure.
So I have one in front of me here. This was just a little test run that I got done, just to make sure all the colours are right, and there's no mistakes or anything. So they'll be printed in the next week, and hopefully we'll start coming through people's doors around the middle to end of August. So very excited for you to see them all.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can confirm I've seen a copy of the magazine, and it's a great magazine, great read. Some beautiful pictures of Seville. So visually as well, you get a real flavour of the city, and hopefully it'll inspire people to either come to Seville to watch a match, Betis or Sevilla maybe, or at least travel a bit more and watch football in different places. Okay, James, thanks very much for being on the podcast today. Where can people follow you on social media?
Yes, so I'm primarily on Instagram and Twitter, so Escapisimo magazine on both of those.
Okay, great. Okay, well, that's it for this edition of the Football Culture Podcast. Tell your friends about us, write us some nice reviews, subscribe, follow, etc. We're on all the social media platforms, the Football Culture Podcast. So thanks very much to James, and see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.